Welcome to the Coastal Athlete Program, presented by Apex Predator Athletics. Train today, survive tomorrow. Now, live from the shores of Monterey Bay, here's your host, Shep.
Welcome to the Coastal Athlete Program. I am your host, Shep. Today, I am joined, as always, by my co-founder, the Shreddy Yeti, the man of Southern California, ladies and gentlemen, Joe Jackson. Joe, welcome back to the show. Welcome on the show, as always.
Thank you. Glad to be back. I'm stoked for today's interview.
Glad to see you rocking that One More Wave hat and that Yuccas t-shirt. Don't forget, you can watch our episodes on YouTube. Today's episode is produced, as always, by our great friend, the man whose voice sounds like if a Maserati pulled over a crushed shell and gravel driveway. Ladies and gentlemen, the sexy purring tones of Danny White. Danny?
Hello.
So good to see you again.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. It's very nice of you.
We're going to get right into it. We are actually super excited to have a returning guest on the show today, a man who has absolutely innovated this concept of taking broken foam that normally would just go to a landfill, and repurposing it and reshaping it and creating incredibly beautiful fiberglass masterpieces. We are joined by custom shaper, body surfer, small business owner, and overall waterman extraordinaire. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the show, Jason of Superbiscut. Jason, it's so good to have you. Let me just throw out your Instagram handle real quick, at SuperBiscutSC. At SuperBiscutSC on Instagram. Jason, I just realized I didn't say your last name. Jason Hackforth, welcome back to the show. It's so good to see you.
Good to see you too. I'm stoked to be back. Thank you.
Did I just say your last name correct?
Hackforth. There's no E-N in there, but that's all right.
Sorry, my dyslexia.
I get Hackworth, Barth. There's a ton of them, so no worries.
So, Jason, we're super stoked to have you on the show today. Last time you were on the show, you told us all about what got you started into shaping. But specifically, you've been up to some pretty exciting stuff over the last few months. You know, while the rest of us have been in absolute lockdown, you have found a way to stay active, stay healthy, and gotten to experience one of the coolest man-made wave attractions in the world. What's the last 2 months been like for you?
Well, I'm on furlough from my regular job, so I've had a lot of time to catch up on hand planes and stuff like that. I've also been doing kind of a lot of stuff just around the house, but it's been good because normally I'm so back ordered that I don't really have time to develop a standing inventory, and now I have one, so that's kind of exciting. That's a bit of a first for me. But other than that, trying to body surf where doable within the confines of the whole COVID thing. And I did sneak away to Texas.
Now, before we get to Texas, just to clarify for everyone listening at home, if you want to see what Jason's sessions are looking like, he has this incredible habit that he has built for himself of bringing a GoPro camera with him when he goes to the water. Guys like me, guys like Joe, we always get to our car and say, man, I really wish I had a GoPro running today. That would have been so cool to catch this priceless moment. Where did you learn how to be such a dedicated filmer? And what are some of the yields it's had for you in your surfing so far?
Well, actually, it came from a moment just like that. Early on, when I was developing kind of the best ways to record, I had it mounted to the hand plane, which isn't really a good way to do it because there's so much spray involved in the pointer or the field of view. But I went out and I was like, it's not that good. I'm not going to bring the camera out. And then within like a half an hour, it was all time. And like you just said, I was kind of kicking myself for not bringing it out. So like there and then, and this is probably 6 years ago, maybe, I vowed to bring the camera out on every session. I don't always get good clips, but when I do, I'm really stoked on. And then to answer the second part of your question, I would say that I wasn't really expecting, in relation to hand plane development, being able to study the footage as much as I have, but especially when I was making like the pickle fork and a couple of the other what I call rail forward designs, I found that I was able to see a different place where the rail was engaging with the face of the wave. So that to me kind of led to concrete evidence, of the fact that it does add something filming. I'm not exactly sure, how much, but there is a difference. So
I agree with that. And I wanted to throw this out there. One of the things I wanted to bring up to you today is there's a particular portion of the filming that I miss from you, and that's your handheld mirror selfies inside the barrel. I love those pictures. I wish I could get a couple more of those. I don't know. Have you done those in a while?
no, it's probably been a year or two. It kind of has to be a specific set of conditions. Like if it's good, I usually don't bring the mirror out. I have to wear the camera on my head, and usually the mirror is under the arm, and I got the hand plane. So it's kind of a lot of gear to swim out with. And I don't usually do it anywhere where there's where it's closing out, not a lot of people, and I'm kind of just going for that shot. But it's something weird that I came up with when I couldn't sleep.
And like, were you a videographer and photographer in high school? Did you already have experience, crossing artistic expressions like that? Did you already have ways of doing something? Because that's a pretty outside the box idea. Or were you inspired by a surfing ad?
I had no experience going into it whatsoever. Actually, I was with my mom in Costco doing some Christmas shopping, and this was before GoPros were really a thing. There was a kind of a camera called like a ATV 34 or something by Oregon Scientific. It was meant for mountain biking, I believe. And I saw it just sitting in a stack, and I was like, the spark kind of went off in my head. I was like, I wonder if I could use that to record body surfing. I ended up getting one, and they were not good for that. And I couldn't figure out how to attach it. I was like trying to Velcro it to the top of the strap, and then I tried, but eventually I discovered the GoPro, and it just kind of developed from there.
Now, when it came to actually like shaping boards and stuff like that, where did that motivation come from? I think we talked about this a little bit on the last episode, but for me in particular, like once I suffered a critical injury, it made me super interesting in learning about the exercise physiology and motor behavior of swimming to try and prevent that injury from happening again. Joe has tried to find ways to use the water to help him reestablish things like balance and lateral mobility and things like that. What was that crux moment where you went, man, I can physically shape the next stage of this progression?
I think I did go over it a little bit in the first interview we did, but there was a buddy of mine had like a training paddle. It was kind of, I don't know, bullet shaped and round bullet shaped, kind of like but it had a company called Wahoo. But my buddy only had one of them, and we took it up north to this kind of slabby spot, and I was blown away by the difference in performance. So, I found a busted surfboard in a garbage can, and I took it home and shaped it like like modern surfboards at the time. This was about 1996. I was terrible at glassing, so that didn't turn out very well. But it all kind of just developed from there. I just kind of that one moment where I first tried that training paddle.
And, for those of you out there who are listening who haven't heard our initial interview with Jason, I strongly encourage you guys to go back and hear that. It was really cool because, Jason welcomed me into his home, into his shop. I got to see where the magic happens. And it was also really cool to see all these boards in different stages. You mentioned earlier that you've recently been furloughed. I'm sorry to hear that. That is something that I know a lot of people are struggling with right now. And as Pat McAfee says, T's and P's, our thoughts and prayers are with you. We hope that you're able to come out of this stronger than you went into it. From an interpersonal perspective, like from the way that you engage with your art, do you feel like this period of time where you've been able to focus has changed the way that you shape boards? Do you think it's changed the way that you view what you do? Because Joe and I will get to this, but you know, you've made a piece of equipment that has given our friend the opportunity to do so much more in the water. You've given him so much joy. Have you become more acutely aware of the people that you're touching with your work?
I like to think that I kind of always have been. There's been a lot of times where I thought about hanging this up just because, I mean, I'm not in it for the money, and obviously there's not really any money in body surfing. But you know, sometimes it's more the consumption of free time thing. And you know, I do question why I'm still doing it sometimes, but then I make a custom for somebody and I get a message back from them, you know, telling me about how stoked they are, and that's really what kind of keeps me going. Is just you know, people enjoying, I guess, what I do. As far as having the time off affect, you know, what I'm doing or anything like that, I would say probably not. You know, I've been doing this for a while, so nothing much has really changed. I just happen to have more time to do it. So I hope that answers the question.
I think it did. And kind of elaborating on that, have you been working on any new projects lately? You know, something like a hand plane time machine too, different things like that. What have you been working on in COVID since you have this time and you are able to positively affect people's lives? Are you working on something new for some people? What do you got going on in the lab behind you?
Nothing new. I mean, if you don't mind, so I'm sitting right here. This is kind of the thing that I made for Arturo with the One More Wave decals on it. It's not fully shaped out yet, as you can see. It's still pretty thick, but this is the first thing that I've ever made for anybody that I haven't personally tested, which is, yeah, it's a first for me, and I wasn't 100% comfortable with it, but you know, the guy sent me some video. I thought that it was going to work good based off everything that you know, I put into other, like the hand planes and stuff like that, but I figured I should make myself one, so I'm doing that. In regards to Joe, your hint there, I do have this which I've been working on, and actually last night I went to battle. If you guys can see, you're the first to see this actually.
Dude, that's sick.
The engines are in now.
Nice.
So I was gonna put a post up. About this probably tomorrow. Yeah, it actually, if I was to do this again, I would probably look into a different way of constructing it, because you know, there were some design flaws that made it difficult to get the engines in, and it's going to be some work to waterproof the insides how I want it to be. But you know, fingers crossed that it's still going to work.
Okay, I have some questions about what you just showed us. So for those of you listening, Jason just showed us like this handboard, but it looked like there was a hollowed out thing in there with, he said engines. So if you're watching on YouTube, you could see that. What is that? Joe and Chef look stoked, and I am just really don't know what's going on.
I made a hand plane a few years back that had headlights in it. Just stupid. I don't know. Something I came up with. Again, I have insomnia problems sometimes, and a lot of times when I'm laying there awake at night, I cook up weird ideas in my head. I saw some YouTube video about some guy who had like put jets into some sort of a kickboard or something like that. And I've just, you know, lit the idea. So I went and I got a couple of these engines. I don't know anything about engines, so I don't know if I can
hold
really
on.
describe
Are they
them.
turbine or are they jet? Are they jet engines? Do they push water through them, or is there a prop in there that spins?
There's a prop in there that spins. I mean, the water would come in here through these vents.
And you've got some filtration on there for the listeners?
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't really do any sound, but I'm not planning on like, womping shore break with this thing. But yeah, and then and obviously it comes out right there. And these holes, there's like a cooling system. You're supposed to take surgical tubing and wrap it around the main body of the engine here, and it comes in here, and then it goes out through there, so it's to try to cool it. I don't really know if that's going to work, but that's what I saw.
If you're not following us on YouTube right now, this is a damn good reason to get your ass over to YouTube, jump across in your app. Over 80% of you guys are on iPhones anyway. We know what's up. Get over to YouTube, click over to coastalathleteprogram.com because you guys are going to want to see this. Have you run something like this before? And how much of an impact did it have on your ability to get into stuff?
No, this is the first time I've ever tried anything like this. I'm not expecting that it's going to pack enough power to pull me from a dead stop. The idea is I'm going to take it out to Cowell's for the test session. And the idea is that maybe in mushy surf, you can hit the button and it just gives you a little boost of speed. I don't really know. I'm just kind of toying with the idea.
We would,
also,
as a follow-up to that, we would love if you're okay with it, if you want to call and let me or Danny know, we want to document that. We want to interview you after and take some pictures because that's really cool. And I think our audience is going to be curious to see that in action.
So will I.
So, Jason, I just want to talk a little bit about Texas and your experience in the wave pool down there. Did you go to Kelly Slater's pool? Which pool was this that you went to? How did you get the invite? Because my understanding is that's a pretty tough invite to get.
For Kelly's pool, yeah, there's only a couple ways to do it. You have to be either rich, sponsored, or a friend of somebody there, or going back to the rich part, you have to. There are ways to kind of buy your way in, but I went to the BSR Cable Park in Waco, Texas, and that is open to the public. Basically you buy an hour session, and just go there and surf or body surf or whatever you want to do.
How much is an hour?
I don't know. So there's like a few different things. There's like the beginner, there's intermediate and advanced. I don't know if they're all the same price, or expert, I think they call it. The expert wave is $90 for an hour. And I'm pretty sure that there are 10 sets. So I think you have a chance to get 10 waves, which obviously not, not terrible.
Yeah, what was your experience like there as far as like the wave and everything? The One More Wave crew went there a couple of years ago, so I heard from them what it was like, but none of them body surfed. What was like body surfing at that spot? Because to me, I see videos and it looks like a nice little wedge, but I don't know if that's really the case.
They have a mode that's called the wedge, but that's only available for private sessions. Like the wedge, I guess, some kind of a second wave that in and makes it bowl super hard. They also have like a backwash section. I can't remember what they call that, but for a public session, it's just like the regular wave, but it's a weird wave. You can't see it coming. It goes from being kind of a gurgle on the wall to all of a sudden being a wave. And I would imagine that, some of the people that I was in the water with were having trouble catching it. Because when the gurgle starts to come toward you and it's like the bottom sort of drops out and it does this, there's a lot of water moving toward the wall. And I found that it was actually kind of hard to swim into it. It was harder than I thought.
And is that salted water or fresh water?
Go ahead.
There.
Fresh water. It's fresh.
Hot or cold? Was it like a pond or was it like a pool?
More like a pool. I'm not super good at estimating temperatures, but I would say it was probably in the mid-70s.
You trunked it.
I was able to comfortably trunk it. I trunked it, yeah. But it was like 95 degrees and super, super humid outside. So, but I was comfortable in trunks and a rash guard.
Nice. the reason why I asked how it felt in the saltwater and freshwater, some of the guys that I knew went before, they said it was much different to paddle into a wave. So I didn't know what it would be like trying to body surf on it. I did hear it was harder to get into it. Once you were on it, did it seem to be very similar to the ocean? Did you need like more hand plane to really plane up? What was that like when you were actually moving down the line?
It packed a bit more of a punch than I was expecting, actually. It's fast and it's got a decent amount of power. And I mean, you know, going back to the video thing, when I'm reviewing my videos and I'm body surfing a wave, I'm lucky if I get 2 or 3 breaths in before the thing is done, you know, because when you're going, you have a tendency to hold your breath and then obviously you breathe when you need to. You know, on the video, I mean, I like 7 or 8 breaths because the rides are really long. You want to stay high. It's not really set up as a body surfing wave. It's a little too fast. But if you stay high and kind of keep an eye on what's happening down the end section and kick at the faster sections. So I mean, I had a lot of fun. I didn't get as barrel as I thought I was gonna, but I did get a few. So you know, it was definitely worth it overall.
Nice. I'm excited you were able to get out there. And to refresh my memory, have you been to Kelly Slater's Surf Ranch before and body surfed? I don't remember.
I've been there twice for contests. I've never actually been in the pool. Mainly I went in the contests because I wanted to recon it and you know, try to figure out if there's any way that I could get in. I've got a couple stories about that. I don't know if we didn't necessarily want to get into that here, but yeah, no.
If you want to tell it, we want to hear it. No, please.
So toward the end of the first contest, I was hanging around trying to see what would happen when, you know, everybody left. So I was kind of just hanging around wandering. I had overheard one of the people who worked there saying they were going to start it up after the contest for some VIPs from Mercedes-Benz. And I was kind of curious just to see what that was about. I noticed that there was a big line of people, and when I looked at the end of it was, you know, Kelly, and he was signing autographs for people. You know, I got in line and I had him sign one of my hand planes, and I, you know, trying to ask him if I could get in. He just laughed. Standing kind of toward the end of it and watching the waves come in. And when they start the sled, or whatever you want to call it, up, there's a guy up in the control tower that says like 15 seconds. You know, he announces that on a loudspeaker. And 15 seconds later, the thing starts up, and it takes a while to move down. And in the back of my head, I was like, if I jumped into here when he announced 15 seconds, I could probably make it out and get one before the guy on the jet ski came and got me. I've talked to people who worked there since then, and they say that's a terrible idea. They've you know, blacklisted people who have attempted things like that before. So I'm glad that my, you know, better senses won out.
Well, if you get blacklisted, you won't be the first person I know that got blacklisted. Not that a buddy of mine tried to break in there in the middle of the night.
For real?
He's special. He licks windows, to say kindly.
So,
gotcha.
Jason, before we keep going with the interview, I'd like to ask if we could possibly move you a little closer to your door, or possibly into the house. We're having a lot of signal cut out on our end. And there's these stories are gold,
okay.
And I want to be able to get all of them.
I mean, I could try taking it off the Wi-Fi.
How? Oh, you mean using 3G or 4G?
Or yeah, whatever this iPad is equipped with. This is an iPad Pro.
Yep.
So you know, maybe it might be able to. Do you want me to try it? All right.
You can. That's
if I
how
go,
I
if I
record
go
a
in the
lot
house, it's a whole
remotely.
different.
Yeah.
With no Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I'll record a lot when I'm on the road without Wi-Fi on my iPad Pro. I got a big 12.9. So mine usually works pretty well. So it may be worth a shot.
Give me just a second, guys. Sorry.
Oh, no worries.
Thank you, Jason. Yeah, I know. I want to get into that. Danny, I'm going to text you show notes and the order. Let's cut this out of order, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So is that okay? I'm sorry.
No, yeah, that's fine. Like section it off.
Well, just like I just want to take the Texas stuff and move it to the beginning.
Okay.
That's the only section because I just want to have that early to get people in. Yeah.
Sure.
Awesome. And then we're gonna close it out with new Yuccas, Joe. So we're going there.
Is this any better?
Significantly, it looks like.
Yeah, your screen's already better.
Yeah.
Great.
So Joe, go ahead. You were in the middle of asking Jason a question about the surf ranch.
I don't remember. TV.
I have a follow-up question for you, Jason.
Right.
What was the difference? Like, what was the bottom like? What was the texture of the bottom in Texas? And was it different than the texture of the bottom in Fresno? And the reason I'm asking is because I have heard that some wave pools have adopted like a much more textured bottom to speed the water up. I don't know if you've heard this or not. What was it? Was it like a pool? Was it like sandy? What was it?
Everything I know about Kelly's pool is that it's concrete. Waco also is concrete. I mean, there's so much water moving around that if you tried to have any sand in there, it would just get washed out. I mean, it's fairly smooth concrete. I never hit the bottom directly. There was a couple times I was worried that I was going to, but you know, when the lip hits, it creates kind of a pushback effect, like a bit of a cushion. So I never hit the bottom directly. I did scrape my knee a couple times, but most of the time, I mean, when I'm body surfing, I'm trying to, and you know, in white water, I'm trying to get my feet underneath me anyway. So a lot of times what ended up happening is I just ended up sliding across the asphalt, you know, either on my feet or on my hands or some combination. And I mean, I never really got scraped up from that. So, you know, you're moving pretty fast and there's a lot of water moving around. So, I mean, it's concrete, so you got to be careful of that. But I didn't have any close really encounters with it too badly at all. So,
and was there plenty of shade around the edges of it? And the reason I'm asking is, you know, I'm hearing high heat, high humidity. I'm hearing smooth concrete bottom. All of this sounds like a recipe for people to have like slip and fall hazards, heat exhaustion, heat stroke. You're in Texas, middle of the summer. Like, what kind of precautions were they taking around to help keep you hydrated and keep you cool?
So, I mean, all the surfaces where you're walking around aren't slippery at all. It's just, you know, I was just talking about the bottom and the concrete of the pool. They do have gazebos and umbrellas out, you know, because there's kind of, there is a bit of a beach area with kind of, you know, beach chairs, I guess you'd call them.
And beach bunnies.
Well, I didn't see too many of those. I was there on a Monday and a Tuesday. So besides, you know, the sessions that I was in, they were full, you know, 9 guys or 9 people. But in terms of people just hanging out, there was barely anybody. But they have a kind of a lodge pretty close to there where they've got water, you know, like cold bottled water that you can grab for free. You can go inside and it's air conditioned. After my second session on the first day, I did feel like a little lightheaded. So I remember going in there and sort of chilling on the couch in the air conditioning and sucking down a bunch of water. So they do have places where you can kind of cool off, and they're very good about you know, offering water. There's as much ice cold water as you can drink. So
that's good to hear. They're offering water and they're considering the patient or the protection of the riders that are coming in and riding with you guys. Quick question: what was the lifeguard situation there? Was there any water safety around at all, or was it kind of just, you're a surfer, you'll be fine?
So on the concrete wall itself, you know, there's the beach and the pool and the concrete wall, and the thing that makes the waves is behind that wall. or inside it or something. It's like a concrete building. I didn't really get a good look at it, but there were always 1 to 2 lifeguards right up top there, sitting in a chair under an umbrella. So I mean, they were, you know, within, like, where you're sitting, waiting for the wave, you're within 6 to 8 feet of a lifeguard. They're right there. And then you've also got a control tower on the beach, where they're playing music on a loudspeaker, and they're also, you know, sort of able to broadcast directions. But there's usually at least 1 to 3 guys in there too. So they seemed like they were pretty well set up for, you know, any sort of a mishap should one have happened.
So you mentioned that there were 9 other people in the session with you and that there were 10 waves per session. So is it basically a wave every, what would that be, every 3 minutes or every 6 minutes?
Well, there are 10 sets. Each set has 3 waves. So what happens is there's 9 people in the water at a time, divided into 3 groups. And, you know, this group goes first, this group goes second, this group goes third. And if you're not up, you kind of hang back. The guys who are up go up to the wall. And actually, this is something that I forgot to mention in the little edit that I did. All of those ads that are on that wall, you know, like GoPro or whatever, they have little numbers underneath them. You want to sit at either number 5 or number 6. That's where the lifeguards recommend that you take off. I was actually sitting at number 5, which is a little closer, because, you know, I found that I was catching them easier if I was a little further, you know, in. But you know, basically what it is within your small group, you guys, you know, you figure out who goes first, who goes second, who goes third, and you know, you can change that as the session progresses. The guys in the control tower told me that wave 2 and 3 are better for body surfing. So, you know, the people that I was with, I kind of told them that, and you know, most of the time they were fine with that. I did end up going on wave 1 a couple times. I can't remember exactly why, but yeah, anyway, so you know, you get yours, and then you go out, and then you're in the back of the line. You kind of do this rotation. There are 5 sets that are rights, and then 5 sets that are lefts. So if you don't miss any of your waves, you have an opportunity to catch 5 rights and 5 lefts, 10 waves total, within an hour. And they mark the change between rights and lefts at the half-hour mark. So I didn't bring a watch. It was dumb of me not to bring a watch, but, you know, I kind of wish that I had, so that I could, you know, keep an eye on when the changeover was going to happen and when my session was going to be over. So, you know, I might recommend that to anybody going, to definitely bring a watch.
As far as having food available and things like that, you've already covered that there was plenty of ice cold water available. There was plenty of shade available. That the only slippery spaces were in the spaces where it should be slippery. What about food? What about what was the experience like getting to and from? And what I'm comparing it to is my experience being a part of skating and snowboarding. If there was a specific session, like say at a park for a contest, we would all be broken up into heats and we would get this amount of time. But there was the time you were competing, and then there was the hour before that. Like, what was there a warm-up session? Was there anywhere for you guys to stretch out? What was that whole part of the experience like? And
to cover the first part of that, they do have like a food truck there, where they're serving barbecue. Naturally, you're in Texas. I mean, I brought like a banana and some other kind of snack stuff. They don't search your bag or anything when you come in. So I mean, I think as long as you're not, you know, coming in with a massive cooler full of hamburgers or something like that, you're probably fine. You know, just to bring some snacks in. But and an answer to your second part, I mean, I got there a little bit early, but that was just because the guys said that I should. You know, get there a little early. It gives you time to gear up, put sunscreen on. You know, I stood there and watched the wave for a little while. I walked over to the tower and talked to the guys. You know, there is ample space on the beach, because I did do some stretching. You know, I kind of did some shoulder and arm stretching and stuff like that. So I mean, there's plenty of room available if you wanted to do that, but there isn't really a warm-up session or anything like that. you kind of just show up, and when it's your time, you go.
There's no lap pool off to the side that you can go in and get your 50 in.
Well, it is like a full water park, but there isn't really like a pool available for. So I mean, there's like a big old lazy river that surrounds the wave pool. There's also like a jump slide thing. They have this massive slide that's got like a kicker at the end that you fly off into this big lake sort of thing. So I mean, there are other water attractions there, but there isn't really a pool or like a hot tub, like Kelly's place, where you can sort of, do pre-swimming or, warming up or anything like that.
I like it. I can understand not having all the extra facilities. That's more stuff to do. And if I remember right, that's pretty close to the actual cable park for the wakeboarding crew, right? The wave pool is supposed to be pretty close to it.
It is, yeah. And I didn't know that's why it was called a cable park, because right when you first drive in, the first thing you see is the big lake off to your left that's got all the cables up in the air. And there's various different ramps and like rails and stuff like that for wakeboarding or whatever it is that they're doing. But I didn't see anybody using it when I was there. And I had 2 sessions on Monday and 1 session on Tuesday. And I mean, I was there first thing in the morning. I mean, the first session is at 9 a.m. So my first day I had a 9 a.m. and an 11 a.m. And that's actually another tip. If you haven't been there before, try to get an hour in between your sessions, because it is pretty exhausting. I think if I tried to do 2 back-to-back sessions, I wouldn't have been able to do it. But yeah, the cable park is right in front.
Nice. So I have a very important question, and it's the main thing I'm worried about with this Texas trip is, what fins did you wear?
Well, I brought my V5s, my V7s, and the pair of Defin MC Ambers that I have. I broke my toe like a month ago, so I wasn't sure whether or not my toe was going to be up to it, and those Ambers have been really good for that because that foot pocket is so soft. I accidentally, on my first session, I grabbed my 7s, and I think that may have actually cost me a couple of waves, because it felt like when I switched from the 7s to the 5s, having a shorter fin for me seemed better, because it takes a while to get the 7s up to speed, whereas the 5s have kind of they're better for sprinting. And you're not doing any cruisy swimming in this place; it's all sprinting. So I would recommend a shorter fin. Like Yuccas, definitely. If Starkey made a double XL, I would have been all over those a long time ago, but I'm still waiting for those to drop. But I didn't actually end up using. I know, yeah, I've been watching his stuff very closely because I'm excited about it. But his XLs just are a little too small for me. I didn't use the Defins. I never got around to it. So I would imagine they probably work pretty well. I just didn't get around to using them.
So it's interesting. You gave us this incredible exclusive by showing us some technology. And I hope it's okay with you that we're going to release this episode before you release the social media post, because this episode's slated to come out in a couple of hours. So Cap exclusive, run to Instagram, see it there first. Something else that you guys out there can see first, and something that you, Jason, will appreciate as a true fin nerd like Joe and I. Joe, you got something very special for yourself recently. You got yourself a little birthday present. And a little birdie told me that you got something no one else in the world has. Want to tell us about it and show it to us?
Well, I have 2 pairs of long blades now, and the other pair are not this colorway. It's a colorway that was 1 of 4. And Starkey decided to bless me on my birthday, and he gave me a custom sample color for Western Hydrodynamic Research, or WHR. Sick. They're basically going to go on my fin wall. Some people know this, some don't. I actually have a 1 of 2 Viper V7 orange dots. So those blue fins are going to go right by there. Actually, I
And
could
like,
go get the orange dot and show it to you because it's right.
why don't you go get that? And while you
I'll
go
get
get those, I'm going to tell everybody the story about me with WHR. So when I first got done with my charity swim, and I was feeling super depressed because I was like burnt out on swimming. I was tired of just grinding. Doing 4 to 5 miles a day sounds awesome until you do it. It's a lot of swimming. It's a lot of time in the pool or at the beach. So Joe gave me this WHR little kickboard, like a mini bug, and it had a strap across the top of it that you could fit 2 hands in. And, you know, we've told this story before. I didn't really know how to use it. But the funny thing is WHR ended up being the ultimate gateway drug to get me even deeper into surfing. Whoa.
Wow.
That's a 7-inch blade, Joe?
The Viper is a 7-inch blade, and you can tell, a lot of people know this, with the V7s, they're really easy to find because of this basically mold mark that's on them. So that makes it real easy. And I got lucky with these ones. And then this is the WHR. They had a sample 1 of 4. I don't know if this is the actual color they're going to run, but I have some of the originals. So these two will be going next to each other on the wall, basically.
Those are sick.
Yeah, they are. Super rad. I can't wait for the double XLs to show up on the short ones, but I can't wait for you getting a set of these long blades, man. These are,
I want that too.
I like that colorway you got there too, Joe. That yellow, blue, and red. Like that's extra clean.
Do you know the story behind this?
Why don't you tell me? I forgot.
So they're for Burnham, or I believe, yeah, Burnham, and I think they also call them barbecue. And if you look at a flame at like a camping stove, the flame starts at blue, then it gets yellow, and then it kind of goes to that orange-red. So it's kind of a little bit of play on words with his nickname, and that's how they came up with this colorway. So yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, these things are money. So Jason, it's basically a V7 with updated rubber and updated ventilation. So they're Gucci. I love them.
Like actual drainage, because I love my V7s, but as a shore pounder, like it's just tough having no drainage.
You got to empty them out all the time.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Because if you're on YouTube, you can see on Viper, they basically have a hole in the middle of the foot where the Yuccas, the holes are at the end of the toes. So that way the gravel and water and everything can come out. Also, another little fun fact about that, this kind of drainage the Yucca has is it also helps save your heel straps, because the water can get out, and that's why your heel straps break, is your fin fills up with water and just blows out a strap. So yeah, they're super fun.
That added pressure.
Exactly. And I'm bummed to hear that the short blade Yuccas don't fit you, Jason. A buddy of mine, were talking about that yesterday with him, because he's in between XL and double XL. And what he ended up doing was taking about 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 inch out of the toe, right next to the ventilation where his toe was hitting. And it seemed to work out for him. I don't know if you're close enough like that or not.
I got a pair of the black and tan ones when it was like the first generation release. And it felt to me like it was more than that. It felt to me like it was probably more like 1/2 inch. Because I could feel my toes bunch up pretty solidly against, the end of the foot pocket. And I swam in them, and they were super comfortable. I loved the texture of the rubber, but I could feel blisters popping up on the knuckles of my toes, like almost right away. So I took them off.
Nice.
Luckily,
do you still have them?
No, I sent them back. I probably should have kept them.
I would have taken care of them for you.
So Jason, while we have you on, I wanted to ask you on the show about whether or not you had mentioned before that you're happy to do custom work, that you're happy to build things to people's specifications. I have a dream, a fantasy, if you will, that when it comes to surfing and, my love for alternative surf craft, and specifically my love for kickboard style pieces of equipment, because of my background as a swimmer and because I enjoy riding something unique. Have you ever considered making a kickboard version of the pickle fork? And would you consider being commissioned to make a human-sized pickle fork to surf?
Well, I mean, I kind of think that this guy is a kickboard-sized version of the pickle fork.
It is.
There's a guy, Sean Cunningham is the name of the guy. He lives on the East Coast. He's my unofficial East Coast ambassador because he's bought like 3 hand planes for me now. This was actually his idea. This wasn't my idea. He had been wanting to get something a little larger, and out of the blue, he was like, "Can you make me something that looks like the pickle fork but is like a pipo?" And we went through a bunch of different iterations kind of on it and shaping it, and came up with this. In terms of doing like a full board sized one, I mean, I could. My setup here, I'm not really set up to glass full size things. You know, I mean, this is one of the hand plane stands, and I'm kind of just, you know, good size for a hand. I have to put 2 of these things together to glass the Super Pickle, just as an example. I mean, I know a guy I could probably rent some space from to do glassing in there because he's got proper surfboard stands. So, I mean, I'd be willing to give it a shot, but it's not something that I'm, you know, exactly set up for at the moment.
Well, I'm only asking because a lot of our listeners are adaptive surfers, and they're guys like me who we want to use traditional equipment, but sometimes the traditional equipment puts more obstacles in the way of participating in the sport than the alternative. Like for me, I love the fact that I can always carry something small wherever I go and be able, hey, I just got done with a client, the surf's breaking, grab the stuff out of my car, hit the water. So I wanted to float that out there. I know at least a couple of our listeners have reached out to us offline and asked about whether or not you did some bigger custom pieces. So for those of you listening now, you know, get in Jason's DMs and be like, hey, we want the Super Pickle. Especially if you can put like Pickle Rick on the bottom. That'll be like the piece de resistance.
That's doable. I mean, basically, I'm willing to try anything. You know, I'm not really hung up on any one particular style or anything like that. If somebody wants to come at me with something crazy, and I'm able to do it, you know, I'll tell them. If not, I'll try to figure out a way. But you know, let's talk about it. I'm happy to consider anything.
I like that. I'm glad you're considering doing everything. And I just kind of wanted to ask because it sounds like you have been making hand planes since the mid-90s, correct?
Correct.
So a lot of your designs now are a lot of actual trial and error and just learning through the process, or are you getting inspired by certain other surfboard shapers or different aquatic surf craft makers?
I was more inspired by surf designs in the early goings, you know, and this was in the potato chip, you know, Kelly Slater, Rob Machado days when they were writing these little thin things with a ton of rocker and tail rocker, you know, double concave through the tail and everything. And so I was doing that and testing a few different things. And what I found was that what makes a surfboard go well isn't necessarily what makes a hand plane go well. It's so much of a smaller platform that, you know, where like double concave through the tail, for example, you know, does one thing for a surfboard. For a hand plane, it actually slows it down. It creates drag. The fastest way for hand planes to be made, you know, that I've found, just according to trial and error, is to have the bottom be completely flat through the stringer with some concave on the rail. And I've also found that too much concave can work against you. Not so much when you're on the face of the wave, but in the flats. I've made a couple of hand planes that were almost sort of catamaran looking. And when I was taking off, they dragged like crazy. So yeah, I initially was inspired by, you know, surfboards, but now I've kind of just been working off of trial and error. And that's part of the reason why I started making really weird hand planes, because I had worked through all kind of the traditional designs and was kind of bored.
Jason, before we let you go, we would be remiss if we did not ask you about any body surfing clubs that you may be associated or affiliated with. I've heard rumors that you're part of the Mid-Cal Hoodats, the WMSC. Take us through it. Tell us about some of these groups that you find fellowship with.
I mean, I've talked to the Mid-Cal Hoodat guys quite a bit on Instagram. I've never made it down to one of their meetups, but I would really like to, because it looks like a lot of fun. And you know, I just my first experience going to the contest in Oceanside was really kind of a wake up for me, because there's so many clubs down there, and there really aren't any in in this part of California. I mean, the Santa Cruz Body Surfing Association obviously has been there for a long time, but besides the one contest they do in the fall, they don't really have any sort of regular meetups that I know about anyway. I mean, maybe they do, I'm just not dialed in. But there was the Bay Area Body Surfing group, club, I can't remember what term they used, but they would meet up once a month at Ocean Beach in San Francisco, and that was a lot of fun because I'd never body surfed Ocean Beach, and that place is challenging, to say the least. I did develop kind of my own body surfing club just because it kind of just happened organically, but it's called the All-Siders Body Surfing Club, kind of a play off the West Side, East Side thing here in Santa Cruz. No West Side, no East Side, all sides. It doesn't matter where you're from. We haven't done a meetup since September because I had an injury and then the whole COVID thing. So I'm thinking maybe July is when we'll start back up. I have a page that I'll update when that comes up. But
I'm super interested in that because the number one thing that keeps me from going surfing on a regular basis is I don't want to surf by myself. Because if I knock myself out, if I make a mistake, I just, like, younger me loved doing things by myself. Now I'm, in my late 30s. I'm like, yeah, I'm not running the risk of not coming home today. So please make sure to let me know. We'll post that on Cap. It's so important to have people to ride with, and I know Arturo is like cursing my name right now because the One More Wave crew goes out every single morning on the west side. But up until recently, all parking on that side was closed. I don't own a beach cruiser. And it was like, hey, I really want to get there, but it's going to take me forever just to get there in the first place, and if I have to work at 9 o'clock, there's just not enough time. So let me know. Right. I'm in.
Yeah, definitely. You came to at least one of those, if memory serves. So I'm shooting for July. And I know that Arturo's group meets on the third Thursday of the month. So I'm probably either going to make it maybe the first or second. I'm sorry, Saturday of the month. I had been doing them on various Saturdays, but I'm probably going to try to avoid that Saturday. So maybe the first or the second Saturday of the month.
Also, too, you'd probably be welcome, and Arturo would probably have to really confirm this, but I imagine you would also be welcome to have the club meet up with the One More Wave crew. There's a lot of times, at least in other chapters, we don't exclude anyone out of the group. We want to bring as many people as we can together. And my thought with that is trying to get veterans around good civilians. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, we don't want to create isolated communities where veterans feel like they can't affiliate or associate with anyone else. And a big way to break down that barrier is find a common hobby, talk about what it's like to slide down the face and not say, man, you don't know what it's like to do this. Like, let's find that common ground. I'd like to think all the One More Wave meetups are very loving, except for the one where you join One More Wave when we beat you up like you're joining a gang. That one's pretty fucked up.
I got to get jumped in.
Oh, you haven't been yet?
We'll talk. For everybody listening right now, if you're considering applying, I'm just kidding. You don't get jumped into One More Wave. It's an online application.
The only worst thing about One More Wave is me when I'm pushing you around in the water because, you might be an assist surfer and I have to get you into the wave.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that's a good idea. It's definitely something to consider. Thank you.
Well, listen, Jason, we know that you've got a lot going on. Danny, did you have any last minute questions before we leave?
No, I've learned a lot today, though. I will be honest, because I don't know anything about anything.